Seattle Seahawks. What's the plan? What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Happy Saturday. Made it to the weekend here, just a couple days shy of free agency. Not that free agency is really the thing that most of us are thinking about right now, but we do have a lot to think about right now for sure. There's a lot going on with the Seattle Seahawks at the moment, and I want to talk a little bit more about this because I still get the sense that a lot of people don't really understand what I'm trying to say in some of my recent, really the last two videos. And it really comes down to one thing, and I want to really go into that in this video. Before I get into it, I do want to say thank you for watching. Please like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new. Click the bell for notifications. Become a channel member for $2 a month. Those are the best ways to support the channel. So here's the thing. You guys know that I am a fan of Geno Smith. I believe in Geno Smith. I think that he is a very good quarterback. I think that you can win with him. I think that in large part you can win because of him. And I think that there is, regardless of context, something that you lose that you may not be able to get back anytime soon when you part ways with a quarterback like a Geno Smith. It's not the same as parting ways with a truly elite quarterback, which is why you almost never see a team do that. But there is something here that we are not guaranteed to be able to find again anytime soon. The Browns are still kind of trying to replace Baker Mayfield. And Baker Mayfield wasn't great for them by any stretch of the imagination. But they still can't even replace that. So it depends on what happens next. And I hope things go well. And I believe that you can replace Geno Smith. I believe that you can find a way to make it so that we're forgetting about Geno Smith in the next couple of years here. But here is my problem really right now, even more than that. Even more than just the fact that Geno Smith isn't here and he was one of my favorite players and now he's not here. It's more than that. I want to think about the Seattle Seahawks perspective, not just the Geno Smith perspective now, and kind of echoing some of the things that I said in the previous couple videos, but really hammering on this. What is the plan? What is John Schneider's plan for the Seattle Seahawks? And how are they going to go forward from here to execute that plan? Because theoretically, in the minds of many Seahawks fans, this is something that we're doing to tear it down for a year, at least to an extent, and get ready for 2026. Right? The classic step back season. It's not a rebuild. It's not a tear down. Excuse me. It's not a complete tear down. It's a partial tear down where you say, okay, we're not going to go for it this year. We're going to save our money, keep our cap space clean for 2026, maybe even roll over some money. Short-term deals, simple deals, discount deals, whatever, and we just try to build up for 2026. And I want to say this. I'd be okay with that. I can dig it. And I accept that that particular plan does probably involve a Geno Smith trade like the trade that we just made. I'm still not happy with the compensation on that trade, but it would be a trade. Geno Smith doesn't have a lot of value for a team that is stepping back for 2025, not really going all out trying to win, and aiming for 2026. And again, I want to stress, we're not talking about tanking. We're just talking about not overextending yourself. Like, think about what the Rams did to win their Super Bowl, the way they overextended themselves like crazy. Right? They did that stuff because they felt like they were right on the cusp, and they needed to do those extra crazy things to get there. So, I'm just saying, you don't do stuff like that. You don't even do the mildly crazy stuff. You just keep it simple, keep the books clean, aim for 2026. I can live with that. I'm not jumping up and down out of my seat about it the way some people do. I think that some people believe that taking a step back and like getting your weapons ready for a future season rather than the current season is some guarantee of success. It's not. you can do that and still screw it up. And a lot of teams do screw it up. A lot of teams do kind of strip themselves down and have a step back season or even a full teardown season. They don't ever really get to where they're trying to go. They don't ever really get back to the top. They just stay down there and they can't get out. So it's not a guarantee of success, but does anybody actually think that that's the plan? And here's what I mean by that. For that to have been the plan, John Schneider would have had to have gone into the offseason thinking to himself, like when the season ended back in January, sitting there thinking to himself, well, I don't think this core can get it done. I don't think Geno Smith is good enough. I don't think DK Metcalf is good enough. Or if they are good enough, we are not going to be able to build up around them fast enough. So therefore, I'm going to try to move them this offseason. Does anyone think that's what happened? Because if you look at the reports we're getting, and this is from multiple places. Like I got this tweet from Jordan Schultz up, and I know maybe we're not the biggest fans in the world of the Schultz family here in Seattle, but it's from other places as well. And Jordan Schultz has always been, I think, a fairly good reporter when it comes to this stuff. The trade request from Geno Smith came Thursday night after the two sides were unable to find common ground on a long-term extension. So he requested a trade, and less than 24 hours later, we traded him. So does that sound like John Schneider going into the offseason thinking to himself, okay, we're going to step back a little bit. We're going to move Geno. We're going to move DK. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do all these things we need to do to prepare for 2026. No, not at all. And if you read between the lines on the DK Metcalf stuff, where apparently we lowballed DK Metcalf with our initial contract ask, and he asked for what I think is a understandable, if not ideal amount, and he asked for the trade after that, and the fact that the Seahawks are apparently entirely open to having him play out his last season in 2025 and just letting him walk in 2026 or tagging him or whatever, I think it's pretty clear they didn't go into the offseason thinking we're just going to get rid of these guys because we're going to take a step back and we're going to try to have that kind of that descending season so we can take those steps forward into true elite status in 2026. It seems to me that John Schneider is getting blindsided by this. And that is my issue here. It seems to me, and I know that there are some people who don't totally agree with it, but when you read between the lines on this stuff, the fact that DK Metcalf asked for a trade in large part because we lowballed him on a contract offer, if the report is true that he wants $30 million a year, that's about the going rate for a player like that. I'm sorry, it is. Not because I agree with that, but because I look at what other receivers get. I know how this stuff works, and I get that the cap just went up by a pretty significant amount. That is the going rate for a receiver like DK Metcalf. And same with Geno Smith. Like, I'm not in love with paying him $45 million a year, but look at these quarterbacks in the league right now that are getting more than $45 million a year. Do you think that Kyler Murray's better than Geno Smith? Do you think that Tua is? I certainly don't. Maybe some of you guys do. I don't think it's particularly close. I think that Geno Smith has clearly proven to be better than most of those guys. I think he's probably better than guys like Baker Mayfield. Now, Baker's not on a big contract, but Jared Goff is. I think Jared Goff is... I don't think there's much there that I'm too excited about personally. So I think that Geno's probably better than that. And these are guys with $50 million a year or more. So yeah, I was hoping to get him for less than that. I was hoping we could get him for under 40, but 45 million, like if you think Geno Smith is a very good quarterback like I do, and like John Schneider claims to, then you shouldn't be that surprised by over $40 million a year. You just shouldn't. And but even if we say that 45 million a year is too much for Geno, which is a defensible position, I agree. And even if you want to say that DK Metcalf getting 30 million a year is too much, which is defensible as well in some context, I think. That doesn't change the fact that this wasn't the plan. This feels like sticker shock. It feels like John's plan was, I'm going to go for it in 2025. We're going to have Geno Smith at quarterback. We're going to have DK. We're going to have JSN. We're going to have this Kubiak offense going. We're going to have K9. We're going to have Charbonnet. I'm going to try to fix the offensive line. We're going to have this great defense with McDonald. We're going to go for a deep playoff run. And then he couldn't get contract negotiations to where he wanted them to. And first of all, it took him less than 24 hours to go from the request trade to the trade, which it's very hard for me to believe that he got max value, if that's the case. Like, I don't know, maybe they were passively discussing it for weeks beforehand, but hard for me to believe that a late third-round pick is the best you could do, especially when you apparently didn't even work on the trade for more than 24 hours. But more than that, looks like it was the plan to bring him back. Looks like that was the intent. Looks like that was the intention of the team. So no, taking a step back in 2025 is not the plan. Now, here's the thing, and here's what I will say. You can have something not be the plan and then make it the plan, right? You can say, I thought we were going to go for it, but now, because Geno's been traded, because he wanted to trade, because DK's asked for a trade, we're going to do it. You can just say, okay, I guess we're doing this now. Problem being, number one, you need a cooperative owner. You need an owner who is not going to fire you. You need an owner who is okay with a bad season. And I don't know if Jody is good with a bad season. Jody, her mentality right now might be, I want a playoff win this year or I'm going to fire John Schneider. And if that's the case, then guess what John Schneider is going to do to try to win a playoff game? Anything and everything that he can. So you need Jody Allen to be on board with that, which maybe she is, maybe she isn't. We don't know. But then you look at stuff like this and you wonder, okay, what? I guess it's just for negotiation leverage. But if DK Metcalf does play out the final year of his career, then you're not pivoting to that plan at all. And you're really not pivoting to that if you sign Sam Darnold. Guys, my understanding is that Sam Darnold is looking for like $43 million a year or something. Probably going to get about as much, if not a little bit more, than what Geno ends up getting. So if you take your Geno dollars and you transfer them over to Darnold dollars, then as far as I'm concerned, you're spending the same amount of money for a significantly worse quarterback. But even if he's not, that's not pivoting. Dropping over $40 million a year on a quarterback like Sam Darnold, who's had one good season in his career, one good season with Kevin O'Connell and Justin Jefferson, that's not pivoting to a step back year. That's all gas, no brakes. And if he does this, then it's impossible to argue that he ever had the plan of pivoting. If he ever planned on actually having that more peaceful and passive year. So this is really what bothers me right now. It feels like Schneider is reacting to stuff that is happening to him, and he's reacting in a way that is kind of frantic. It feels very messy. It feels very disjointed, right? Oh, we're going to keep Geno Smith, and we're going to build around Geno Smith, and he's our guy, and he's going to be the guy who leads us on a playoff run of some kind in 2025. Oh, he wants too much money. Okay, we're going to trade him. Now we're going to go get Sam Darnold instead and do that same thing. It's... Remember, we did restructure Leonard Williams. And I know some people say you can use rollover to make it so that the cap space doesn't actually hit you later. You can, but why would you do that initially if your plan was not to go for it? You wouldn't do it at all unless your plan was to all gas, no break it. So you got something like this, where let's say this does happen. If DK does stay here now and play out the final year of his contract in Seattle in 2025, then that's not a pivot to a passive year. Not at all. That's the exact opposite. So we'll see what happens, but I'm going to say it right now. I'm all for a plan that involves taking a step back to move multiple steps forward later. But this right here, that would not be that. That would not be that at all. That would be the exact opposite of that. And I think it would end in disaster personally, but that will be determined later. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think. I don't know how else to look at this, guys. I'm trying to be open-minded. I'm trying to see past the fact that I really liked Geno Smith and I thought he was a really great quarterback. But even beyond that, it's not just about Geno Smith. It's about what this was clearly to me. I think that if you look at all the reports coming out, this was clearly not the plan. John Schneider was not sitting in his room at the stadium or the VMAC or whatever, writing all this down on a piece of paper, thinking, we're going to move Geno, we're going to move DK, we're going to scale back for 2025, we're going to get good picks, we're going to draft up, we're going to fix the offensive line, get everything ready, get the quarterback some point in the next 2 years, and then we're off to the races. That wasn't the plan. I don't know how I could possibly think that was the plan. I think that it is something that he is working very hard to avoid doing. Honestly, my best hope at this point is that he's forced to do it because he's too cheap to actually land a player like a Sam Darnold. I'm hoping that we end up just kind of letting things happen in 2025 and we don't land any of these big free agents. Okay. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Yeah.